Welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Experience podcast, inside the business, buzz, and brilliance of Black entrepreneurs. Here is your host, Dr. Frances Richards.
Bonus episode. What happens in Vegas goes all over the world on Black Entrepreneur Experience episode number 209. Thank you for joining us as we elevate the Black Entrepreneur Experience by interviewing CEOs, thought leaders, innovative thinkers, and Black entrepreneurs across the globe. I'm your host, Dr. Frances Richards. What can we learn from a certified nutritionist, holistic practitioner, megachurch senior pastor, national speaker that personally lost 110 pounds and is helping others reclaim a healthier lifestyle? Welcome, Dr. Joseph L. Williams.
Thank you.
I have given our audience a very brief bio. Why don't you fill in the gaps? Share with our audience what you'd like them to know about you and your business.
Well, as you've stated, first of all, thank you for having me. I want to congratulate you on the great work that you're doing. This is a very, very needed vein, so thank you for that. As it relates to me, I am a pastor of a church here in the Atlanta area. I've been doing it since I was 21, so for the past 22 years. I got into health and wellness accidentally. I was sick and tired of being obese, of having health issues at such a young age. And my approach to addressing my problem was through education. So I became a nutritionist and I began to apply what I learned on myself. And it was a great marriage in that our constituents were able to see my weight loss, asked me to help them. And here I am 8 years later in this vein of helping people all over the world.
What was your greatest epiphany in your study of health and nutrition?
My greatest epiphany is that people address obesity in an inverted way. We go from the outside in, meaning that we work on losing weight. We work on going on a diet. We work on trying to get off of prescription drugs. Whereas the true epiphany that I had was you want to start from the inside out. When we change as a person, how we think, how we view our relationship with food, formulation of different habits, developing those pathways in our mind, we change internally, spiritually, and emotionally. And then the byproduct is losing weight, is becoming healthier. So my greatest epiphany is that for years, people have been going across about this in the wrong way. But when you start on the inside and move outward, then your results are more sustainable.
You talked about helping people all over the world. Talk about how are you doing that, especially in this time of COVID-19?
Yes, well, actually, it was COVID-19 that ushered us into this digital space. As you know, we aren't able to gather, touching, just being around people is something that can be quite harmful to us. So for the last 8 years, I've been in this space to where I've been conducting what I call a process, but for lack of better words and for clarity of communication, programs. I don't like to use the word program because programs have a start and an end, but a process is something that is ongoing. And that's one thing that people have to understand when you're in this space of change and transformation. So in digitizing the whole thing, basically all of how I work with people is in digital space, using social media, using websites, using podcasts, using Zoom conferences to where people don't have to leave their homes. It's more easy and is safe in that you can still get help. You can still have community without risking personal health. So that's how we've been able to do it.
Tell us your favorite healthy meal.
Oh, my favorite healthy meal is, I would probably say, an egg omelet with spinach, mushrooms, tomatoes, onions, and probably a piece of fruit. Love it. Great way to start the day.
Talk about your greatest success story.
My greatest success story is when over this past session, I saw an African-American female. She was probably in her late 60s, and she lost 60 pounds in 38 days healthily. To see her change her life that quickly and to get back years and to reverse all of her medications and to get off of prescription drugs was nothing less than a miracle. And I've seen innumerable stories like that of massive change in a short period of time. So I would say that.
I know where early on someone is saying, how do I connect with Dr. Joseph Williams? What is the best way for people to connect with you?
The best way to connect with me would be on social media. If you're on Instagram, you can connect with me there at Dr. Joseph Williams. That's Dr. Joseph Williams. And on Facebook, you can connect with me with @DRJLW. Everything is web-based, and whenever we have new openings of classes, that's where it's announced. So that's the best way. They can inbox me and I'll communicate directly with them.
Do you have a new class starting?
Actually, the final class of this year is starting right now, and we've got almost 900 people across the world in this particular class in about 50 different groups. Each of those groups have leaders and different infrastructure of how we migrate people through it. And the next class will be January of 2021. We do 3 classes per year.
I was going to ask you, so you have a team of people working with you?
Yes, I have a team of people administratively who are working with me in the field of gathering statistics, because we have statistical data that we gather for each class: demographics, weight loss, gender, demographics where people are actually living. We have people who are doing uploads of different handouts and information. So I've got a team of people who are helping me, along with about 40 to 50 leaders at any given time.
Talk to someone in our audience that's dealing with COVID-19 and their health. What advice would you give them, Dr. Joseph?
The advice that I would give them is, we're seeing now, according to the statistics and the science, that alleviating underlying conditions is the best way you can improve your chances of not only surviving COVID-19, but lessening its negative impacts if you contract them. Things such as obesity, things such as hypertension, things such as diabetes or pre-diabetic state. And all of those gathered together, when you have high cholesterol, hypertension, diabetes, that's metabolic syndrome. And all of them are interconnected, meaning that if we address obesity, that those other areas in most instances will come down. So we, especially as African Americans who lead in heart attacks and strokes and obesity, it's incumbent upon us to take our health serious. We can no longer look upon our good health as an option, but it's a requirement due to the science. So that's what I would encourage people to do, is to start changing today.
And talking about change today, what would you recommend they change if you had to give them like some simple steps?
Simple steps that you can do. Number one, you can become more active. Do something every day. You don't have to run. You can ride your bike. You can swim. You can go for a long walk. 2, stop eating fast foods or foods that are processed. Eat more natural foods, things that perish after 3 and 4 days. Make your own meals. Go back to how mother, dad, grandmother, and grandfather did when they were actually cooking in the kitchen. Statistics show that people who cook their foods eat healthier foods and have lower issues of obesity. Stop eating out of packages, out of plastic. These are simple things that everyone can do. We can become more active. We can eat more whole foods. And that can be a great start for any person, no matter where you are.
Talking about moving and exercise, what exercise would you recommend and what do you do personally?
Okay, I think exercise should be based upon your mobility levels, your age. What are your restrictions? A lot of people may have arthritis or hip replacement, things of that nature. So you want to do what you can. The least that we can do is walk, all right? And you don't have to go far. If you start off walking 15 minutes away from your house and 15 minutes back, you can gradually increase that. Running is okay, but it is high impact on the joints. Low impact is better. Things such as swimming, such as walking, such as riding your bicycle. I'm 43, and to answer your question, being that I can't go to a gym, I'll do push-ups and sit-ups on certain days. I'll ride my bike about 2 to 3 times per week, and I'll take long walks about 2 to 3 times per week. So those are all low impact, and those are things that you can do every day that's not going to create inflammation or pain in the body.
Dr. Joseph, there are so many brands and businesses that are dominating. Can you share a brand or business that is dominating that you admire and why?
Oh, wow. I like Slutty Vegan. Slutty Vegan is a local restaurant here in the Atlanta area, and she has done a great job with that business. And the reason why I like that brand is because she has opened the African-American community up to other ways of living in terms of veganism, vegetarianism, and I think that's great. So it's wonderful, and I just really admire her for what she's doing.
And she's still able to manage during COVID-19?
Yes, she's still expanding her franchises from what I've seen, which is great. She seems to be thriving during these times, and anyone who can do well in these times is a blessing.
Speaking of thriving, talk about capital and raising funds to start your business from the nutrition and the holistic practitioner side. How did you raise that money?
Well, I raise money in a business model that most people don't agree with. All of the processes that people come through are free. Many marketers and business professionals told me that the product that I had was too good to be free, but I looked upon it differently. What I do is I take people through the process, I get them the results that they need, and I ask them to sow a seed in the organization to help someone else. Most people who come through will sow seeds, and others who come through perhaps do not, and that's fine because you open yourself up to that. My business model revolves around the sale of books, speaking engagements, different health products. So once I get people the results, they buy into the brand, and I offer them products that they otherwise would buy from other people. That has been the business model that I've adapted.
And what is the brand or the products that you market?
One of them is Dr. Joe's Detox. It's a detox juice that I use. One of the issues in the African-American community, when I start people off on their nutritional profile, I detox them for 2 days. It's easier to change a person's diet when they detox first. It takes the cravings away and it makes them sustain their new lifestyle better than when they eat whatever they want and they change cold turkey like that. But in the African-American community, there are a lot of people who are hypertensive and they cannot consume things like grapefruit, lemon, and other citrus because it conflicts with their medication. So I developed a juice that was tasty and that worked. It's very tropical, different flavors. People like it and they enjoy it. So to have a detox that works and that people like is a great thing. And that's one of the products that I have.
Dr. Joseph, what problem exists in the world today that you would like to solve?
Wow, that's a great question. I think the problem that exists today that I would like to solve is, I'm going to speak specifically to the African American community, although that is a pericope or a small demographic of the world. And that is for us to return to looking upon our families as major cornerstones in our community. We've gotten away from that. And that would be a great problem that I would love to solve, to show African Americans the importance of the family structure and how there's never been a great people who've existed, who've abandoned the family as a cornerstone of their community and their belief in God. That's what I would do.
Talk about your top 2 influencers and what lessons did they teach you, Dr. Joseph?
My top influencer is my father, Jasper Williams. He influenced me to always be about ministry, to always make things that I do, even if it's in business, about the edification of the person. That was a great lesson builder for me. That was one great person. I can't think of someone else who's influenced me more than that. But I would say my dad, and that's keeping people first. And I've always held on to that.
Talk to a younger you. What advice would you give to a younger Dr. Joseph?
I would tell the younger version of myself not to worry about what people say or think about you, and always embrace your purpose. And understand that your purpose in life may not look like what you think it should. But when you find that purpose, that's the key to having power, having success, and having authentic happiness.
You're a pastor of a mega church. How do you separate, if separation is the right word, how do you separate being a businessman and being a mega church pastor?
I have never thought about it as business. I've always thought about it as ministry. I've never consciously looked upon what I do on one side as a business and what I do on one side as being a pastor. I look upon all of it as being in ministry. So that's a great question, but I feel that the key to my success is being certain that everything that I do is a ministry where I'm giving to people in some type of way. And when I do that, then God sustains me. And me and my family have always been sustained because of that. And we're thankful.
Give us your best 3 discoveries.
Best 3 discoveries. Number 1, understanding spirituality is the key to growth. Religion moves us towards spirituality. That was the purpose of religion. So spirituality is a major key to growth. The second thing that I think that I would say in terms of what I've seen is the fact that transformation has to be holistic, meaning that if you're trying to change as a person, you can't compartmentalize it. If you're dealing with addiction, you can't change without addressing how you're eating, without addressing who's around you, so on and so forth. So change has to be mind, body, and spirit. And the third thing that I would say is that transformation is never permanent, but something that we must work on a day-to-day basis. You can't allow today to get you where you need to be based upon what you did on yesterday. Every day when you wake up, you have to start anew and you have to continue down that same vein. Those would be the three things that I would say.
We are in unprecedented times at this moment dealing with COVID-19 and a lot of social unrest. And I was reading an article that they were saying the most segregated space and time is Sunday mornings. Talk to us about that.
Yes, that was a quote that Dr. King said, that the most segregated time was at 11 a.m. on Sunday morning. And pre-COVID-19, that was the case. But we're in a different state now because all churches, there's no such thing as a mega or a minor church now. We're all the same. And I believe that this time of COVID-19 gives ministries and churches an opportunity that we've never had to reach even more people. So it seems like that pendulum is shifting a bit. And that separation, unfortunately, as it relates to the interpretation of God, has been racially based, which is sad because God is not a color. God is not a nationality. God is not a gender. God is just that. And that's God. And it's sad that our worldview has to create separation amongst believers.
If someone wrote a book about you, an autobiography, what would the title be?
If someone wrote a book about me, an autobiography about me, what would the title be? I would say the title would be Authenticity, How to Live an Authentic Life. That's what I would say. And that's been my quest.
And tell us, how do we do that?
You have to be true to yourself. You have to be true to your purpose. You find your purpose by understanding what your gifts are, your talents. What are you good at? What are the things that nobody had to teach you? What burdens do you want to relieve in society? Is it with women? Is it with children? Is it with men? What are some of your gifts? When you start to explore those things, you'll begin to find what your purpose is. Your purpose are the things that you do that no one has to pay you to do them. That's what keeps you in the trenches to becoming successful despite failing. You know, Winston Churchill said that true success is when you can fail and still not allow your enthusiasm about that to deter you. Only people who are passionate about what they're doing can fail, get up, and do it again. That's why it's important for us to find that.
And what is your passion and purpose?
My passion and purpose is helping people to transform. I'm a transformationalist. I love people. I have the heart of a pastor. And I look upon what it is that I offer people at making things about them. Very seldom do adults have a place or a space where they can go to someone, not have to pay anything, and receive care and attention that they need and support to become their best selves. That's my gift, and that's what I'm here to do.
If someone spent a day with you, what would we learn about you, Dr. Joseph, that we don't know that we should know?
They would learn that I'm just like them. I'm just as flawed as them, and that the person that they see is not the person that I've always been. But a lot of the things about me, I had to work on them. I had to build them up. But just like I've come a long way, I've got a long way to go. So what they would find is no matter what they think or see, that I'm just like them. I'm no different. I just have insight and a divine gift to articulate to others to help them in their journey.
What book would you recommend and why?
Book. Gary Zukov, Seat of the Soul, is an excellent book. That book was transformative for me. I never read it by accident. And when I read that book, it changed my entire outlook on life in a way that helped like never before. Must read book.
What is your favorite quote and why?
Be the change that you want to be by Mahatma Gandhi. And I think that is the essence of it. Challenges people to never complain, but to do. The word of God says, don't be just hearers of the word, but doers of it. And that's important. If you want to see change, you have to be it. Very powerful quote.
What is a technology tool or a technology platform that is a must-have in managing your business day to day?
Facebook. It's the largest social media platform. It has the most tools. It gives you the ability for pictures, photos, writing, keeping people together, analytics. It's a very, very instrumental tool in my overall business.
What is one valuable lesson you wish you knew before starting your journey?
One valuable lesson that I wish I knew, that failures will be more abundant than successes. I wish I knew that, because had I known that, I think I could have gotten to where I wanted to be sooner.
If there's anything, what keeps you up at night?
wanting my life to have meaning for the time that God has given me. I don't know how long I have. None of us do. But whenever my day comes, I want to be able to leave empty. I want to be able to say that my life had meaning for making others' lives better. That's what keeps me up.
Speaking of legacy and leaving here, when it's all said and done, how do you want to be remembered, Dr. Joseph?
I want to be remembered as an advocate for the African American community as it relates to our health, well-being, and transformation. I want people to look upon me and what I've done as something that helped Black people. That's very, very important to me. And that's what I hope to live for, because we have too many people taking from us and not enough giving.
What is your vision over the next couple of years for your brand or business?
I want to create a lane of transformation whereby people are more holistic in their approach of transforming people, not just helping people get off of drugs or alcohol just by addressing the addictive qualities, but the holistic qualities. I want to be a thought leader in the development of that in order to help people get the same successes in other areas of addiction, of depression that I've gotten in the realm that I'm working in.
What drives you every day to continue doing what you do?
I want to push myself to the edge. What drives me is to know that I'm maximizing my potential and reaching my destiny. And what keeps me is getting to the edge. I want to see what is in me. And the only way to do that is by continuing to challenge myself, to continuing to allow the road to become harder and harder and harder and harder, because I think that in those states of discomfort that the best of us come out.
Dr. Joseph, what can we do right now to support your business and or brand?
What you can do right now is pray for the success of what it is that we're doing. You can follow us on Facebook at Dr. Joseph Williams, as well as Journey Life TV on Instagram, and on Facebook, you can follow me at Dr. JLW. And when you see the next program open up, if you desire change, be a part of it, because if you are exposed to it, I believe that you'll become a member for life.
Looking back, what are you most proud of that you've accomplished?
I'm most proud of being able to create 2 different processes that have helped thousands of people that were one-offs, meaning that it didn't come from anyone else. It was divinely inspired. I wrote it. I developed it. I wrote the manuals, trained the leaders, and we executed it. And we've helped thousands of people. That's what I'm most proud of.
What do you hope for your generation?
That our generation turns the corner of how we are headed in the wrong direction. We need to produce more leaders. We need to produce stronger families, men and women. We need to return to our morals. We need to return to the cornerstone of what Black people in this country had, and that was a people of faith. I hope my generation can be integral parts of that manifesting for our future, because it's very important.
Who is that person in your lineage that inspired you the most in your childhood?
Oh, wow. I would say my dad. Keeps going back to my father. No one has influenced me more than my father. Goes back to him.
And I think that's great. We love to have shout outs to fathers and dads. And I just think in our society, they're overlooked. And I think fathers are just so amazing. And they are definitely the head of the family. And there are some families that they don't have that head for whatever reason, but they are so important. The key is that fathers and dads are really important. Mothers are important too, but dads are really important.
I agree.
What do you do when you hit a bump in the road, Dr. Joseph? How do you reset and refocus?
Well, the ancient Stoics used to say that the obstacle that's in the way becomes the way. And that's a great way of looking at it, meaning that if you have a goal in life and something is impeding that goal, then whatever that impediment is becomes the new way. And I think that when you begin to look at bumps in the road as the new way, it always puts you in a position to where you're learning and you're getting better. So when something stops me, I become laser focused on that, because that becomes the new way per se.
How do you include family, business, and life with what you're doing currently?
I think all of them are connected in a way. I like to include my wife, who's a great assistant to me in what we're doing, because this is just as much hers as it is mine. And I create our children and teaching them many of the things that we teach adults. so they can create the foundation in their lives that when our girls grow up, they can teach their children that and their loved ones and things of that nature. So to me, it's all a collective and it's not a separate entity per se.
Dr. Joseph, how do you feel about the person you have become?
I'm very happy with what I've become because I came a long way from where I was. Obesity was a huge dark cloud in my life. And I feel that I've been able to successfully overcome it, not rid it forever, because every day I have to work on that. But I'm proud of that because I learned so much more about myself having overcome obesity, because it was something that I always thought that I would be, just a big guy. And I learned that I don't have to settle for this, that I can be anything that I want. And by changing how I think and what I do, that I've been able to become that. And I'm proud of that.
Now, did you struggle with obesity as a child, or at what age did you find that you were obese?
I was always a big young kid, but I played football. When I went to college to Morehouse, I stopped playing football and I began to gain the weight. So I've always been very active in terms of going to the gym, but I ate like I was an athlete and I was not. So I've been big, quote unquote, my whole life. And it was something, when you do something for such a long time, you begin to identify with that. And once I got to the point to where I began to make changes, that's when my life began to change.
Tell us a story relating to what you define as obesity that was really a painful moment for you.
Oh, wow. For me, it was a painful moment for me when I was unable to go to a mall and just buy a regular pair of jeans. I remember going to the mall over and over again, and when I was looking for my size, they just didn't have it. They said, well, we just don't manufacture this size. I had like a 48-inch waist. That was just very disheartening. It was a form of rejection. And I had to go to big and tall man stores to get my clothing. So when I began to lose weight, and the first time I was able to buy a pair of jeans in the mall, it was a size 40, my whole life changed. Nobody could understand why that was such a big deal, but it meant something to me. And when I was able to do that, that's what kept me continuing in that race of conquering my obesity.
Talk about that day that you made the decision to lose the weight.
It was a competition. It was a competition between my brother and I. We had the same trainer. And we wanted to see who could lose the most weight in a month. And I was determined. And I dropped 30 pounds in the first month, and I didn't even know what I was doing. And when I did that, I said to myself, well, if I can lose 30, then can I lose another 30? And then when I lost another 30, I said, well, can I lose another 30? And I just kept going. So it started with a friendly competition between me and my brother. And here I am 8 years later.
And what was the outcome for your brother?
He lost a good amount of the weight, but he didn't focus on his overall weight loss as I did. So we kind of looked upon it a bit different.
Dr. Joseph, talk about that moment that you had the struggle. Like you had mentioned that you started on this weight loss journey, you kept going, but was there ever moments of temptation, or did you have moments of stop-start, or did you start and just keep going?
Good question. I would say it was two halves. The first 60 pounds I lost and I just kept going. When I hit the 60 pounds, so I went from 330 pounds to 270, I stopped 4 or 5 months because I felt that I was in a good weight, but I didn't really realize that I had a lot more weight to lose. And when I realized that, I started back. So it was probably lost 60 pounds and then I did another 60 pounds. So it was in two halves. So it was a collective of about a year and a half that it took me to lose in excess of 120 pounds.
Talk about the transformation and the mindset losing the enormous amount of weight.
Being relentless, being myopic in your thinking, not caring. People were telling me you're losing too fast. Are you sick? Is something wrong? Don't lose too much. You hear all of that, but you have to tune all of that out because a lot of people will say those things and it comes from a place that they are unaware. A lot of people are envious that you're able to change. And it makes them feel better that you don't lose weight or that you do eat the cookie or that you do the same things that you were once doing. People don't understand that. So when you're transforming, you have to be completely selfish. It's about you. And there comes times in life when it's okay to be selfish. And it's okay to be selfish whenever you're doing something that's improving yourself. Because when you're improving yourself, you're a better version to your children, your husband, your wife, your friends, your family, everyone.
Talk to someone in the audience right now and they've put on the COVID-19. What advice would you give them?
The advice that I would give them is just like you put something on, you can take it off. And why not allow today to be the day that you change? That you don't have to compete for a bodybuilding competition. You can work on losing your first 10 pounds or your first 15 pounds. You have to start somewhere. And today should be the day that you do that. Don't wait till tomorrow. Do something today.
If you had to do it all over again, would you do the same field, being a holistic nutritionist, and why?
Yes, I would do it. The reason why I would do it is because a nutritionist and this conversation of losing weight has a spiritual and emotional impetus that vibes very well with being a pastor. I didn't see that at first, but it's almost the same conversation that's being executed in a different way. You can't help people lose weight without addressing some type of element of spirituality. Spirituality can be changing how you're thinking, being positive, redeveloping your relationship with food, and understanding that you are what you eat. All of those are spiritual-like conversations. So if you're going to be in this health and wellness space, you have to believe in spirituality in some degree. So for me, it vibed quite nicely being a pastor of a church, being exposed to so many people and being exposed to so many people who have underlying health conditions. So God put me in a perfect place with a perfect story to help many imperfect people.
Dr. Joseph, talk about self-care. What does self-care look like to Dr. Joseph?
Self-care is about being certain that I'm mindful of what I put in my temple, mindful of what I listen to, how I speak to others, my outlook on life and myself. Always being transparent, always being honest, always being in a state of reality and not disillusionment. That's what self-care is, because self-care is about perfecting, not being perfect, but working on me each and every day. That's what self-care is to me.
Talk about maintaining that healthy lifestyle. What advice would you give?
The most important thing to maintaining a healthy lifestyle is you really want to surround yourself with other people who think like you. It's very difficult when you're the only person who's trying to eat right, trying to live right, trying to exercise. So what I would advise people to do is get around other people who are walking, join walking clubs, join gyms or different clubs where people are eating healthily, where you can learn how to cook. You have to put yourself in new environments in order to take and siphon energy from your surroundings. So I would really encourage people to do that.
Dr. Joseph, if you conducted this interview, what is the one question that you would have asked yourself? I want you to ask the question and answer it.
Oh, wow. The one question that I would ask is, what has been the biggest obstacle in you becoming successful in this space of health and wellness from a business vantage point? That would be a question. And my answer would be holding true to my belief of not charging people while still generating enough income to sustain a business. That was the most difficult part. But it's something that took me a long time to do, but I've been successful because I've been able to bring value to people first, and then they sow into the company or the business instead of asking for that value first and then proving myself on the back end. That's how I would answer that.
And to this day, do you continue to maintain that business model?
Yes. No one has paid a dime for coming through the process. Not one dime. And I'm proud of that.
Let's shift gears for a moment. Talk about the worst moment in business and what was your takeaway?
Oh, my worst experience in business is I hired a local juicery to make a juice that I combined myself. And the profit margin was so minuscule that I was unable to make the dollars that I needed to make it a viable company. So what I did is I had to adjust my approach to it and come up with a concentrated type of detox that was still tasty and still efficient, but shippable. And when I did that, it was the game changer for my company.
And did you have to go through like FDA or anything like that to make sure that it was shippable and everything was fine with it?
Yes, I had to go through that. I had to hire attorneys. I had to go through the whole trademark problem. That was a very important thing for me that was lucrative for me. When I first started off, I had a name that I can't say it due to what we signed off, but I had a name that my juice was under, and I owned the trademark. And there was a juicery in California who had the same name of the company, and people were going into their establishment thinking that it was my juice. Well, they had developed an entire company, they had factories, and they had to buy the trademark from me. So that was a great business lesson that I had positively learned, that when you have a name out there, be certain that you're trademarking it, because it keeps you in the driver's seat, and you never know how it'll help you in the future.
And you had trademarked the name in advance?
I did. It was the first thing that I did.
And talk about trademarking, if you want to give us a quick 101 on trademarking.
Sure. Trademarking is what allows you to protect your brand as well as monetize your brand in a way that people cannot take your brand or the image of your brand and make money off of it. Let's say, for instance, you are John Smith Incorporated or whatever the name of your company is, and you make a certain type of product. You want to trademark that. And the way the trademark works, you can't just trademark a name for all areas. There are different areas. It may be food, it may be a drink, it may be a supplement, it may be a movie, it may be a series. It has to be very, very specific, because you may have two of the same trademarks in two different fields that don't compete with one another. So that's very, very important for people to know and to understand. Trademarking is very, very important in business, especially if you find yourself having a product that you're generating money off of. The sooner you get that trademark, the more you're going to protect yourself and keep people from stealing what it is that you have.
We've come to the part of our interview. It's called Fun Facts Lightning Round. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, Dr. Joseph, and I'd like you to give very quick answers. Are you ready for the Fun Facts Lightning Round?
I'm ready.
The last movie you saw?
Oh, last movie I saw was Black Panther.
You relaxed doing what?
Riding my bike.
Your favorite singer or rapper?
Luther Vandross.
Your favorite dance song?
Lean Back, Fat Joe.
Your first job?
Giving tours at our church.
What food you eat every week no matter what?
One steak.
Do you work out or do you hit the couch?
Work out.
Thank you, Dr. Joseph, for spending time with us on Black Entrepreneur Experience Podcast. Before we let you go, why don't you share with our audience the best way for them to connect with you and to do business with your company?
Thank you for having me. You asked great questions. It was a pleasure to be here with you, first of all. They can connect with me on Instagram at Dr. Dr. Joseph Williams, or on Instagram at Journey Life TV. You can connect with me on Facebook at DRJLW. I respond to all my messages. That's the best way to connect with me.
Thank you, Dr. Joseph. That's a wrap.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening and subscribing to Black Entrepreneur Experience. We would love for you to leave a review and rating on iTunes and share with your friends. For show notes and more episodes, go to www.beepodcast.com. Join us next Wednesday, and remember, green is the new black. So keep your bank accounts and your business in the black.